So, vintage 2025. After the extremes of the past couple of years, 25 is taking up to be more of a normal or an average year. In contrast, 24 marked our earliest vintage ever, whereas 23 we started the latest we ever had. A challenging start to this season. Our yields are down this year. It's likely due to this intense heat and the prolonged dry period conditions that we had in early 24. If you remember, it didn't rain until July. Those dry 6 months really impacted bud burst. We had fewer buds on the vines than usual and a lot less flowers as well. Typically a shoot would produce 1 to 3 flower clusters. However, this year, lots of vines barely had any fruit on them at all. But the silver lining is, when quantity is down, quality goes up. The first big challenge is always when to actually pick your grapes. So first we sample our grapes. We walk through the vineyard, we take random samples of grapes and we taste them for acidity and sugar levels. At Upper Reach, our focus is really on flavour. It's the flavours of the grapes that will become the flavours in the juice and ultimately, of course, the flavour of the wine. So we're going to harvest for flavour. We start with a vision for each of our wines, what flavours we want, the type of oak we're going to use, style of wine we aim to create. The winemakers will then walk through the vineyard. This is probably the most critical part of the process, and they're going to taste the grapes. And relying on their years of knowledge and their experience is what's going to help them make their decision as to when to pick. At Upper Reach, we really prioritise flavour. Acidity and sweetness levels are kind of secondary considerations. So to be simple, we pick the grapes when they taste how we want our wines to taste. So once this fruit is picked, there's really only 2 ways that you can adjust, though not completely change, the aromatics or the smell of the juice and the wine. The first is yeast selection, and we're actually not big believers in manipulating yeast to enhance specific flavours. Over the years, we've tried different yeasts. Some of them claim to produce particular characteristics, but we found the results kind of underwhelming. At Upper Reach, we use a neutral yeast. It's a natural yeast which is regrown in the lab, so it's tested for alcohol tolerance and also compatibility with the acidity levels of our grape juice. The other way is fermentation temperature. The fermentation temperature can subtly influence the juice's aromatic sort of profile. So if you ferment at a slightly warmer temperature, it's going to enhance the tropical fruit characteristics, whereas a cooler temperature is going to highlight your more citrus sort of flavours. All our white grapes were picked by the end of January in 2025, and then it was on to the reds.